Good morning, lovelies. How are you? I recently got back from my second music festival of the summer, Boots Hearts. The first one that I went to was WayHome. So I'm going to talk about WayHome first. Now, I might be a little bit biased because the music that I listen to is the kind of music that they had at WayHome, and it was just more like geared towards me, whereas Boots Hearts, I went with a friend. I don't really listen to country music, and then there's a few other things that I'll talk about when I get to that. So WayHome was 3 days. You could get there on Thursday starting at noon to set up your campsite, and they also had an art walk on the Thursday night. So because it was a music and arts festival, there was tons of art installments all around the grounds, and it was decorated so beautifully. They had these huge tall flags all along that they have at a lot of these kind of music festivals, and I wanted one so bad. I even tweeted at WayHome to ask them what they were going to be doing with the flags when they were done, just because I wanted one, and there was hundreds and hundreds of them. So the setup, like the way that they set up all the art, the way they set up the stages, they had everything laid out, I really liked. They had they used the whole event grounds. There was tons of food, there was tons of free water stations, there was 4 stages. They had like an area in the trees that had a bunch of hammocks set up that you could go and lay in. It was just, overall, WayHome was a better experience. Some of the big names that were there, and like my favorite people, were Kendrick Lamar, Sam Smith, Neil Young, Alt J, which was my favorite. I'm in love with Alt J, so the fact that I got to see them there, cloud nine. Who else did we see? Walk the Moon, Yukon Blonde, Django, the Growlers, Hozier. There was tons. There was so many people. For the 3 days, music started at 1 p.m. and went until like 1 or 2 p.m. or a.m. So like 12 hours of music every day. Sometimes there was things like Alt J and Hey Rosetta were at the same time. There was a few other things like that where there was 2 things at the same time, which I didn't really like because I wanted to see everything. But there will be next year, hopefully. Yeah, so overall, the camping was great. There was tons of really cool people. Everyone was really respectful at WayHome as well. There were no fights. There was no one falling over drunk. There was no one puking everywhere. All of those things they did have at Boots Hearts. Also, as far as I know, the grounds after WayHome were left fairly clean. I mean, with anything of that magnitude, you're gonna have messes, and there's gonna be people who have left things that they shouldn't have left, but it wasn't anything catastrophic, and it was fixable, basically, so that when everyone arrived for Boots Hearts 2 weeks later, everything was back to normal and clean. So then 2 weeks later, I went to Boots Hearts, which is country music. It was a much different experience. I did not enjoy Boots Hearts as much as I enjoyed WayHome, even though at Boots Hearts I was with my best friends, and it was just a much different experience. So Boots Hearts had music on 4 days. You could get there on the Wednesday and set up camp, but they didn't have any activities going on, and then Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, they had music. The music started a lot later at Boots Hearts. They didn't have people overlapping. they didn't have as many names. Like there was like maybe 5 big people who were there, and everyone else was just small like local Ontario bands and cover bands, which is fine, but with the amount of money I spent to go to a music festival, I just felt that there was a lack of music. It kind of honestly seemed like most of the people that went to party, which I'm not like that. I don't get fulfillment out of drinking for 5 days straight. So I think that's a lot of the reason why I didn't have such a great time. A lot of the other people that I've seen that have gone said, oh my goodness, like best time of the year, best weekend of my life, I can't wait for next year. So that was interesting. I most likely am not going back next year. WayHome, definitely going back. I have the dates marked in my calendar. I like check all the time to see when tickets are going on sale. What else? After Boots and Hearts, once everybody had left, I seen a picture which I will insert now. They left such a disgusting mess. Like it's as if they had never heard of garbage cans before. Unbelievable. Like I feel horrible for the people who volunteered to clean up after, because it was just such a huge mess. I probably would have cried if I had seen that. We left before everyone else and we cleaned up our campsite. But had I known, I would probably have grabbed a garbage bag myself and gone around and helped clean, because it was horrible. Somebody at Boots and Hearts, so they have this huge main stage that's, I don't know how high, but it's really high. And somehow this man who he looked like he was drunk, somehow climbed to the top of, walked to the edge so that the crowd could see him, and started dangling his legs off and like waving and like putting his back and like leaning back and just doing things that were genuinely scary. Like a lot of the crowd turned around so that if he fell, they didn't see it. And then another time, like another time, I guess, they started chanting, don't do it, or it's not worth it. Like they thought he was going to try and kill himself. So that was scary. That was on Sunday night right before Florida-Georgia line. Overall, WayHome was a better experience personally. Both were interesting, both were very different. If you like country music, if you like partying, if you don't really care about the environment, I guess, and actually spending hours and hours just watching live music, Boots and Hearts would probably be a good time. But I personally was hoping to see more music, but at the same time, I don't listen to country music, so there's like Kira Isabella, Eric Church, Dallas Smith, Thomas Rhett, and Florida-Georgia line were the musicians that we've seen, and that was honestly pretty much all of them. And they were good. Most of them were good. Oh, Brad Paisley as well. So like they had big people come, but it just wasn't up to my standards, I guess. And although those were my first 2 music festivals of that magnitude, I was still disappointed. So hopefully next year is better, and if you're thinking about going, hopefully you have a better time at Boots and Hearts than I did, or just as good of a time as I had at WayHome. And if you're going to WayHome next year, maybe I will see you there. Okay, bye.